Good morning. Okay, I'm back with Luke 23 finally. It's been a while since I've been on here, but okay, so we ended Luke 22 where Jesus just got arrested. And so Luke 23 starts out with Jesus is taken to Pilate, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, the Roman governor. And the crowd is accusing Jesus of things that he didn't do by telling Pilate. They say, "We found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar, saying that he himself is Christ a king." So in verse 3, excuse me, Pilate asks Jesus, "Art thou the king of Jews?" Jesus answers, "Thou sayest." Verse 4, Pilate tells the chief priests and crowd, "I find no fault in this man." Verse 5, the chief priests respond fiercely by saying, "He stirreth up the people, teaching throughout all Judea, beginning from Galilee to this place." Verse 6, Pilate asks if Jesus is Galilean. He's trying to pass the responsibility on to Herod, the ruler of Galilee. Verse 7, Jesus was then sent to Herod once it was confirmed he was of Galilee. Verse 8, when Herod saw Jesus, he was exceedingly glad, for he was desirous to see him of a king's season, because he had heard many things of him, and he hoped to have seen some miracle done by him. Verse 9, Herod asks Jesus many questions, but Jesus answers none of them. And in verse 10, the chief priests and crowd are now asking questions of Jesus and accusing him. They are hoping to find fault in his answers. Verse 11, Jesus is mocked by Herod and his soldiers. They put Jesus in a fancy robe and mock him by calling him king. So it was a fancy purple robe, for royalty. Verse 12, during the mistreatment of Jesus, Pilate and Herod bond and become friends. Verse 13, Pilate called all the chief priests and rulers and people together and said, in verse 14, "Ye have brought this man unto me as one that perverteth the people, and behold, I, having examined him before you, have found no fault in this man, touching those things whereof you accuse him." In verse 15, Pilate continues, "No, nor yet Herod, for I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death is done unto him." Verse 16, he continues, "I will therefore chastise him and release him." Verse 17, the prisoners the prisoners found innocent must be released during the festival. So, verse 18, the people demand, if a prisoner must be released, then why don't you release Barabbas? And I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Is maybe Barabbas? I don't know. Instead of Jesus. And in verse 19, Barabbas was imprisoned due to murder and rebellion in the city. Pilate wanted to release Jesus, and he saw no reason for Jesus to be punished. He told the crowd this again. And in verse 21, but the crowd cried out, "Crucify him, crucify him." In verse 22, Pilate for the third time addresses this by saying, "Why? What evil has he done? I find no cause of death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go." Verse 23, the crowd became louder and again stated Jesus should be crucified. Verse 24, Pilate folded under the pressure of the crowd and sentenced Jesus. Verse 25, Pilate releases Barabbas, butcher that, and hands Jesus over to be punished. In verse 26, as Jesus was led away, the crowd forced Simon to carry Jesus' cross. Many followed Jesus to his crucifixion, including women. Many were grieving. And in verse 28, Jesus addressed the crowd. He said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children." Verse 29, "For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, Blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bare, and the paps which never gave suck." Jesus is warning the people about a time of great suffering to come, and that it would be easier to be without children so that you don't have to witness them suffering. So, and then, verse 30, the people in the crowds are scared and cry out, "Mountains fall on us, and to the hills cover us." They want to hide from God's judgment. Verse 31, Jesus speaks again, "For if they do these things in the green tree, what shall be done in the dry?" Jesus is saying that it's good times now, and people are still doing bad things. Imagine what horrible things people would do in the tough times. Jesus is warning about the potential for great evil during this time. Verse 32, two other men who were also criminals were led away with Jesus. Verse 33, they came to Calvary. Jesus was crucified along with the two criminal men, one on his right and one on the left. Verse 34, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Verse 35, people mocked Jesus and said to him, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he be Christ, the chosen of God." The people misunderstood Jesus' mission. He was there to save them, not himself. Verse 36, the soldiers mocked Jesus and gave him vinegar instead of water. Verse 37, soldiers said, "If thou be the King of Jews, save thyself." Verse 38, a sign was above Jesus stating, "This is the King of Jews," written in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, so that all could see whatever language they had, that they were able to see the sign. Verse 39, one of the criminals crucified next to Jesus said, "If thou be Christ, save thyself and us." In verse 40, the other criminal responded, Dost not thou fear God, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? In verse 41, the criminal continues, "And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man hath done nothing amiss." So the criminal is saying that they deserve the punishment they're getting, but Jesus does not. So verse 42, the criminal tells Jesus, "Lord, remember me when thou comest to thy kingdom." And verse 43, Jesus responded, "Verily I say unto thee, today shalt you be with me in paradise." Verse 44 through 45, and it was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. So 3 hours of darkness. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. The earth became dark due to God's sadness over Jesus' death. Darkness in the middle of the day. This was also a sign of the seriousness of the situation. Verse 46, Jesus cried out loudly, "Father, unto thy hands I commend my spirit." And having said thus, Jesus died. And with that, I will pick up with verse 47.